Good evening, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We have two different programs going on. My name is Marjorie Schuster, and on behalf of the Temple Emanu-El Streicker Center, I'm very excited to welcome you for a fabulous evening. Our guest, Ali Wentworth, is the author of 3 New York Times bestsellers. I feel like you're clapping for me. Okay. She's a former cast member of In Living Color, a former correspondent on the Oprah Show, and she has a knack for finding humor and absurdity in the trials and tribulations of everyday life. I just spent 5 minutes with her, and I couldn't stop laughing. In her new book, which I love the title, Ali's Well, That Ends Well, she writes about the dark days of COVID, but she turns this into comedy gold. She joins us tonight in conversation with the one and only Brooke Shields, star of so many of the TV shows and films that I'm sure everybody is familiar with. If you're watching on our live stream, you have any questions, please email them to questions@emmanuelstreikernyc.org. And if you are here, I believe we gave out cards. Yes. Now, I hope they're here. Please join me in welcoming Ali Wentworth and Brooke Shields. I feel like this is from The Sound of Music. Now, please join me in welcoming Ali Wentworth and Brooke Shields. Okay.
Were we already introduced? Ali Wentworth! Were we introduced? Or did we just walk out here? Hi, everybody. 2 Christian girls here in the temple.
Very excited to be
I'm here with Brooke Shields.
When I was a kid, I actually thought that that's what it was. I was like, oh, that's so nice. They personalize it. Baruch atah. And I was like, oh, I'm so
No, they didn't.
not up. No, I
Nope.
was not right.
They don't want
but-
you anywhere near
Anywhere
their
near.
religion.
Well, thank you all so much for coming and for celebrating my closest and dearest and most respected friend, Ali Wentworth.
Younger friend.
So we're here to discuss Ali's Well, That Ends Well. It's your 5th, right?
It's my 5th book.
It's your 5th book.
Yeah.
And Ali and I have been friends for quite a while.
Yes.
And
we were
she asked me
models
to-
together.
Yep. She asked me to do this, and I was like, really? Really? You want me to do this? And I couldn't think of someone that I would want to celebrate more. She's the funniest, smartest human being that every time that we're together, my kids will say, Mom, it's really important that you spend more time with her.
Well, that's for other reasons, too.
Oh, yeah, of course. But this is your 5th book, and you wrote it during the pandemic.
I did.
And I was sort of talking to you while you were writing it.
You were.
So were you supposed to do this 5th book, or was this, because the other 4, if you haven't read the other 4, they're amazing. They're funny, they're irreverent. She's able to deal with really serious topics in such a beautiful way and still make you laugh out loud. So to me, humor, or as you say, the best guffaw, is some of the best medicine.
I agree with that.
Yep.
I actually, it's interesting you say that. I have a podcast. I'm just gonna sell all my wares.
Plug away.
I have
where
a
is
podcast.
that podcast? Where can we hear it?
On Apple Podcast.
There we go.
Go Ask Ali, it's called. So if we'll take a minute while you guys download. And one of the episodes we did recently was on the science of humor, and I was a few years ago with my friend Sharon Jacob in Burundi, which is a small country in Africa. It's not where you go on safari. There's no animals. There's no toilets to speak of. And we were down there because they're building a hospital. And Sharon and I brought our 2 teenage daughters. They were having the time of their life. We were like, we're not going to the Turks and Caicos. We're going to Burundi. And of course, we had brought all these Michael craft shop bead kits, and we were beading with these beautiful African girls from the village, and it was very awkward because me and my daughter were kind of sitting across from the table, and we were like, we didn't speak Burundian, they didn't speak English, and so we just did these sort of quaint, like me and Brooke are doing. And we're beating, and everybody got a bottle of Coca-Cola and a roll. And one of the girls drank the bottle of Coca-Cola in one gulp and burped, like blew the roof off the house, burp. And there was a moment, and then everybody started laughing. And it is the common denominator, is the thing that ties us all together. And after that moment, the girls, our daughters, me and Sharon, had the best afternoon. And I realized it doesn't matter what language you speak, and particularly the past 2 years in this global pandemic, humor can get us through some really hard times. It actually affects your heart and your brain. It makes dopamine. So with that realization, I've been really researching this idea of humor, even for hospital wards, for trauma patients. And there is data. I mean, all the scientists, all they want to study is like anxiety and depression. We're like, we have pills for that. But happiness and humor get no research, and they're actually incredibly good for your head. So, which brings me to COVID. So I got COVID very early on in March, and I'm not going to say where I got it. My husband, George Stephanopoulos, gave it to me. He was asymptomatic. I was sick as a dog. So in our very public divorce in a few years, you'll know why. He gave me COVID. And I was lying in bed, and back then when you quarantined, it was for 3 weeks, right? Now it's like, I don't feel well, you've got COVID. Oh, well, let's go to the mall. But back then, it was a really big deal. And I was lying in bed, and I could hear my 2 teenage daughters downstairs, and I thought, how am I going to grow teenagers in a pandemic? I have 2 teenage girls downstairs. They're supposed to be robbing liquor stores and getting knocked up. And, they're having the strangest time with adolescence. And I what am I going to do? And because of that, I started writing.
I'll start a podcast.
I'll start a podcast. How do I monetize this?
Yes, how do I monetize my children and my sickness?
But I realized that I started writing stuff down that I thought was sort of interesting to the period. And then I thought, listen, it was, for a lot of people, a very, very sad, dark time. My stepfather died during COVID. People lost their jobs. And I was very concerned about my daughter's mental health, because I truly believe this generation of kids is going to have a huge mental health problem that we don't even know about. And I used humor to try to alleviate some of the pain. I'm married to George, I want to say Clooney so badly, Stephanopoulos. But, George is, he's no carrot top, you know what I mean? He's a serious guy. And so during COVID, George was doing breaking news, and he was talking about, death numbers, and I thought, I got to even this out, because my girls are getting dark. They're under their duvets, FaceTiming Brooke Shields kids. And, I tried to find ways, and one of the ways was my daughters. Here's the other thing about COVID. I don't know about you guys, but we let our kids go rogue. Like the sixth.
Talk about that. They used to sit at the dinner table and talk about morality and internal homophobia and gender and equality. They would have these amazing conversations, and I would always think like, oh my God, I'm not bringing enough to the table to my kids. And
yeah,
then,
you weren't.
No, I know. God. No, and it was always inspiring because it would incite a conversation, and you'd learn more about your kids based on what they thought of certain topics. And then during COVID, we
lost a hold of the reins.
Completely.
Because here's the thing: 6 months in, at the
she's
beginning,
watching Love Island in Australia or
yes.
whatever that one was.
Yes, because after 6 months, you realize, I don't know when this thing's going to end. I don't care what my kids do. I don't shower, don't eat. I don't care anymore. It's all about me. It's survival of one. So the girls would come in and they go, Dad, we're watching Love Island Australia. And George, who was like, I only read the Lyndon B. Johnson diaries, was like, what's Love Island Australia? And they were like, it's just like about these people and they like hook up and get kicked off an
And
island.
some aren't worth sleeping with.
Yeah. And so 2 weeks in, George is like, hi, it's 7 o'clock. Why are we watching Love Island Australia? So we got kind of hooked on it, and then we had a Love Island Australia dinner, and we all had to wear our bathing
Accents.
suits and have accents. And me and the girls wore heels, and we bought Cameos, which is an app where you get. Are you on it?
No, you,
No
you told
offense.
me I should. You said, you can make a couple extra bucks by doing this. I recall that conversation.
Yeah, you can. It was
Yeah,
terrible
yeah.
advice. So, but we got Cameos from the Love Island people that were like, hi, matey, hope you're having a good dinner.
Hey, mighty.
And we were like, this is amazing. And this is like my wedding. And so we we had gone that far down the rabbit hole of depravity. And I have a photograph of this. And I'm pretending that I will never show anybody because, George in a bathing suit. But the truth is, it was during COVID. How many loaves of bread did you eat? My stomach was like hanging down to my knees. It looked like I'm only wearing a bikini top, and I actually have the bottom on. And I was like, this photograph can never see the light of day.
Well, that's why it's not on the screen.
No,
right
that's
behind.
why.
I tried to work that out, but I couldn't get my
Your
hands
face
on
is
it.
much bigger than mine on the screen.
I'm an icon.
I know, and very serious.
But during the time, do you remember when we did, I said to my husband, I was like, no, this is the most important thing. I was like, Ali has COVID. Ali has COVID. We have to do something. He's like, we can't do anything. We can't go anywhere. And I'm like, no. Remember when we came over to your house
Yeah.
and reenacted
Say anything?
Say Anything with
Yeah.
with the
Yeah, Brooke. Boy, you're telling the story well. And I was sick, and
I glue gunned my life away on this box.
well, it was incredible. And so George said, "Go to the window." I said, "I have a fever of 105. I'm not going to the window." He said, "Go to the window." This one is standing in a raincoat, holding the boombox up from "Say Anything," which was like the greatest thing. I took a picture.
And my
of it.
husband found a way to broadcast the actual song through it, and so we actually had I just wanted, and I think that this is so interesting, and we learned a lot when we're so sort of isolated and we're so away from. You have to find ways for that type of human connection and human and laughter. And the thing about laughter, which is it is universal, and it's the thing that is, yes, it produces the hormone that dopamine. Yep, that's it.
Are you okay tonight?
Yeah. Woo. A little drunk, but that's okay. No, but that was the thing that I think saved us. We had like Met Ball. We did a lot of lip syncing to things. We did a lot of songs, and I cooked a lot of rolls that you ate.
She can cook a mean roll if you ever want to
a
roll.
mean
That's
Parker
your
House
girl.
roll, and that's it.
But by the way, I don't think we're alone. I think everybody, based on Instagram, everybody was baking and cooking because here's a fact, a scientific fact. During COVID, women gained weight and men got in shape. And it's because we internalize everything and we are the mother hens. And so we are cooking and stress eating. And all the men were like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go work out in the garage. I think I'll go bike ride for 25 miles.
My brother-in-law got ripped.
Who?
My brother-in-law.
The men got ripped.
Completely ripped.
And we were like, hi.
And I was like, gung, gung, gung.
Yeah. Let me just finish washing the clothes on the rocks before I make dinner. And so after the 2 years of COVID, I went to my doctor and I did a full, soup to nuts. And she called me at 10:30 the next night. And when your doctor calls you at 10:30 at night, it's never a good call. It's never like, how are you feeling? Even worse if your gynecologist calls at 10:30 at night. But we took care of that. But my doctor called and she said, Ali, your cholesterol's 336. I know. Oh my God, the gasp. I didn't know what that meant. I was like, thank you. And she said, no. She says, it's really, really bad. She goes, what have you been eating during COVID? I said, I've been eating what everyone else is eating. I eat a baguette with cheese and a pint of ice cream
ice
at
cream.
night. She was like, you can't eat that anymore. I go, of course I won't. I just take a statin and call it a day. But it's because at night, the girls and I, when we were watching Love Island Australia, we would scoop ice cream. We each picked 3 scoops and a different sprinkle. And then that was kind of our ritual. So hence the 336. And then I discovered, which is the cover of my book, whenever we had a sad time, when camp was canceled, or I would run to Carvel and get a Fudgy the Whale cake. And let me tell you something. I know that the majority of people in this room pop Xanax and Ativan. A Fudgy the Whale cake, you have no idea. It's like a bottle of red wine. It not only makes the kids feel good, but you are at such a sugar high.
There's one. She sent one to my house today to thank me for coming out tonight, and I dug right into it even before I ate the whole tail.
It's the vanilla ice cream, the chocolate, the
crunchies.
chocolate crunchies, and then the whipped cream.
And the whipped cream. It's just good.
No, you cannot not eat the whole whale. Did you eat the whole thing?
I just ate the tail.
You ate the tail.
Just
That's what
ate the
skinny
tail.
girls do. I'll just eat the tail.
Just eat the tail.
Anyway, I'm interested to know other people's stories about this because I found that food was very self-healing in a lot of ways.
I went straight to alcohol.
So sad. That is so sad, you guys.
No. I mean, I did. I don't cook. You've taught me to cook anything that I can.
A roll.
A roll. No, but I started baking because I could measure things. Like, I like measuring, I like labeling, I like, she throws a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it tastes amazing. That's not the way my brain is wired. Like, I need to organize and measure and do things, and that gave me peace of mind because it felt like, here's a joke.
May I tell you, she called me during COVID and was like, I want to make lasagna for my family. And I said, okay, and I gave her very simple instructions. And her husband, Chris, called me. He goes, oh my God, Brooke just made dinner. I said, what happened? He goes, it was a meat lasagna. She never cooked the meat. And I was like, so she was like, noodles, sauce, ricotta, raw hamburger meat, noodles.
It was carpaccio lasagna.
It doesn't matter. She's so pretty. Yes, we did. I'm going to tell you something that I just thought of, which I haven't even told anybody, but you people will enjoy it because Jerry Seinfeld, I played Schmoopy on the Suit Nazi. All right, like 30 years ago. But during COVID, thank you. They're my people. There you are. It's my mom and dad. So during COVID, the Seinfelds lived sort of near us, and there was, as you know, a communal feeling wherever you lived of people saying, do you need anything? They heard I was sick. They called, and my younger daughter answered the phone, and the Seinfeld said, what, is there anything you need? And my daughter said, fabric softener. I don't use fabric softener. I'm like, fabric softener? The only person that said, what can I bring? It's Jerry Seinfeld, and she asked for fabric softener. So the next day, something goes flying over the fence and, of course, hits the mailbox and breaks open, and it's this little bottle of Snuggle or something. I thought you should have asked for cash. You know how rich Jerry Seinfeld is.
Why did you just think of that now?
What?
Why did you just think of that now?
Because I was looking at your dress and my suit, and I thought, she smells better than me because I'm schwitzing under here. And then I thought of fabric softener, and then I thought, Jerry Seinfeld threw fabric softener over my fence. I didn't even write about that.
So I tried to get this outfit tonight. I did everything I could in my power. I tried every possible store to get this because I really wanted to come tonight and be dressed exactly as Ali. But this is as close as I could get. And
the do's and the don'ts in the magazine, when they wear the same thing?
I'm the before shot.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it didn't come in a 16, so she couldn't get a... There's no big and tall for ladies. But we look good.
I think we look good, right?
Good.
I think another thing that sort of was evident in your book, and also just something that's a theme that we talk about, is the importance of female friendship, and how that, to me, during COVID, maybe it was just because I was in the house with my husband for 2 years straight, that could possibly have some.
By the way, if you were with your partner during COVID for 2 years and you made it through the rain, then like you're good for life, I think. You saw, smelled, tasted things you never heard.
Heard a lot of stuff. I don't want to ever hear
there is
again.
a reason that, we separate during the day. And
Well, and George, you said because your courtship was not as long, so you didn't.
no, we
get
were
to kind of-
engaged after 2 months.
Right, so you didn't.
I don't know this man. Then we're quarantined together.
But now all of a sudden you've got COVID, and he has to swoop in and be all those things, and it's possible he wouldn't have been able to step up to the plate, but he did.
Well, this was the big test, and I have to say that he was a rock star. And I'm not saying this because they're filming this and streaming this. I love him so much. Let me tell you something. I'm not saying I'm the glue that keeps all together.
She is.
So when I was sick, I was concerned about the dogs being fed and the bills being
Just
paid.
alive.
Yes, I just
the
wanted
dogs
my
alive.
dogs to live. And so I had to rely on George, and I have to say he dealt with 2 teenage daughters, which should be a horror film. He dealt with the fact he was still working, so he was doing Good Morning America from our dining room and breaking news. So he would come down in the morning in his undies and a suit and tie, and the dogs, and by the way, I have a morbidly obese dachshund, and those things yap. I don't care. It could be a telephone in a film that rings, and my little Daisy is yapping like crazy. So any movement, if you step on a stick and it goes, she's like, so George had to do breaking news, and these dogs are right there. So if they see a squirrel or a light flicker or a piece of pasta on the floor, they're going crazy. So George held a huge handful of doggy snacks. And so when they would go to breaking news and he was like, the doctors are saying, he would throw snacks at the dogs during the whole breaking news so they wouldn't make a noise. And then it was...
I did that for my husband.
Yeah. You just threw turkey legs at him.
Threw turkey at him. Just let him go at it.
While you're
and then I
doing
could have a Zoom.
commercials. Yeah. No, but he was incredible, and I have to say I'm a little bit embarrassed about one phase of COVID, which was I was very feverish, and again, 3 weeks in a room. I mean, you saw that movie with Brie Larson. And so I started streaming, thank God for streaming, and I had already gone through, Amazon, Netflix. I had streamed all the streamers, and I remembered I had seen a little bit of Mad Men, but never really watched it. And so I started watching all, 8 seasons of Mad Men, and they're on a loop. You know how with streamers you watch a show, and then the next episode just starts, and then the next episode just starts? So like 4 days went by, and I didn't sleep or eat. I was just watching Mad Men. And I got so delirious that I thought I was married to Don Draper. No, really. I thought I was married to Don Draper. I thought I had enormous bosoms. And I thought I just drank a lot and wore miniskirts and sang French songs. And so when George came up one night to bring me dinner, I was very upset because he was cheating on me. And George was like, oh my God, you're even crazy with COVID. And I was like, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing with your secretary, George. And he was like, oh my God.
How cliche.
He threw me the bread and slammed the door. And then the next night he came in and he was, here's your mush soup. And I said, I know you've been cheating on me and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'm just trying to get well. And he was like, again, you're crazy. I'm going downstairs. I hope you are in here for 3 years. And as he left, I said, and don't you think I'm not taking my percentage of the Draper John Cooper Price Company? And again, he called my doctor and said, she's filing for divorce and she's delusional. My doctor was like, that's okay. She's okay. Just
my favorite is you
keep
throwing
giving
the
her the
glass
pills.
and saying, I want a divorce.
Yes.
And he had just brought you scallops. And
I say that every day.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there was a kind of a scary moment where I was not only feverish and delusional, but I don't think I was as kind to George as I usually am.
But he was also worried that you could die. Like, you could.
He was on J-Date every night just in case. You talk about the Tindler swindler. He was like, who's up at bat next? No, he loves me.
Well, he does. He absolutely adores you, and it's so great to see them interact with each other because he just he adores you, and he loves laughing, and he loves it. You make him laugh. He loves it when my husband makes him laugh. And,
He does.
So it's nice to see that these husbands sort of really do love their.
It's funny, George isn't that smart.
Yeah, I know. That's the one thing that's
everybody
a problem.
thinks he's so brilliant. I'm like, no, honey, the Middle East is right here.
But you know what? Your girls do the same thing to George that my girls do to me, which is they attack us for everything that they. And I don't know. And you had a good theory about it. You said that
They're trying to level the playing field. So
Right, it's a lot to live.
The good thing for my girls is they have George and me as parents, and so. They know their father has never gotten below an A. They know their father was a Rhodes Scholar. They know their father was working in the White House really young. Yada, yada, yada. So I have to balance that out. So when my daughters get a B- on a test, I say to them, when I got a D, my mother put a candle in a Hostess cupcake. You're upset about a B-? Oh my God, I'd be framed in our mantle if I got a B-. So I give them the idea that beauty school is a good idea.
No, but what I love about.
Your kids are being mean to you because you're so beautiful.
I think we're just being like a famous person. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
like
they hate you because you're famous.
No, but they kind of have to break me. What's so odd is they want to break me down like that because either, I don't know, if the kids are saying something to them or whatever. And then the flip side is, remember when Greer used to say, Mom, can you just dress up and put some makeup on when you're doing pickup? Because she would want me to look like I did in the magazines when I picked her up at school.
Same.
No, and then in the next breath, they're like, why can't you be more like Ali? She cooks dinner every night. I'm like,
well, see, my daughters are like, Mom, why can't you put on some nice clothes? Why don't you have eyebrows like Brooke Shields?
but you watch these kids and they I watch. So they've gone. You're got a freshman in college.
I do. A freshman at Brown University.
Brown University.
Yeah. We paid a lot of money to get her in, so we're really proud.
And she's on the rowing team.
Yeah.
But,
she's a wrestler.
Yeah.
But by the way,
polo.
I always say, you know what? They have their father's brains and their mother's legs, and if it were the other way around, they'd be screwed.
But we had to endure this moment sort of together but apart when we dropped our kids off at college. And honestly, one of the most devastating moments of my life, and you had gone through it, and we were texting each other.
Well, first of all, there's a good and bad. First of all, when I went to college, I drove a beat-up Honda. I had my pillow from
you
home
drove yourself
by myself
to college.
I had like a duffel bag and some contraception. Can I say that in a temple? And yeah, nobody took me to Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't need a shower caddy. My daughter's never used that shower caddy.
They even call it a shower caddy.
It's a shower caddy.
I know, but I never even knew that word.
Oh, my girls are always like with camp. Camp is the biggest racket, too. By the way, the younger one who goes to camp, we have to go to Lester's and drop like $25K on monogrammed. Like, what? You don't need this. A big avocado pillow? Why? So when I dropped Elliot, our eldest daughter, off at college, there was like a U-Haul truck of stuff. Oh, I can't sleep in the mattress they have. I have to get a
egg crate on
Posturepedic.
top of
I'm like,
it,
no.
and then a Tempur-Pedic.
I slept on the floor. at my college in China. So I think we overdo it a little bit now with this generation. I think there's a little bit too much coddling. That being said, the empty nest thing is real, and I didn't think I would feel it until I dropped her off and ate a Big Mac. I was with George, and I was like, pull over, pull over. He's like, where? I was like, where? The yellow M, idiot! And we pulled over, and he only has carbs on Friday, and I couldn't have woofed that Big Mac down fast enough. And George looked at me and he was like, what's wrong? I'm like, what's wrong? I'm filling a hole now. An endless hole.
Gaping, endless
and now
hole
I'm
in your
left with the
gut.
daughter that doesn't talk. Okay, so the one that did talk is now at college. The one that was like, oh my God, I have to tell you everything about this boy, about this, about that. To the point where sometimes I was like,
Call Brooke.
we're not talking about vaginas at dinner. I'm drawing the line. But she would tell me everything. And now my younger daughter's like, yeah, she's gone. I'm super secretive. I don't want any focus. Don't ask me anything. To the point where I just drove her to look at UPenn, because we're starting to look at colleges. And it's, 3 hours. We're driving along. She's got her little ear things in. And at one point I said, hey, Harper? And she goes, what? And I go, I'm sorry, we're in the car alone together. I'm driving to Philadelphia. I want to be home watching The Housewives. I don't want to be doing this any more than you. I said, can we talk? Can we just have like mother-daughter talk? And she goes, okay, you've got 5 minutes. And so I just asked her a bunch of questions. No, ew, no. And that was it. That was our drive to Philadelphia.
But and I don't know if that's like the firstborn, but the same thing happened with me because my 18-year-old had her freshman year. Now she's back home. And she, tells me absolutely everything, way, even too much. And when I was fine until I saw her in the rearview mirror, and she just kept getting smaller because we were
Was she
driving
chasing
away.
the car like Elliot? Holding onto the bumper?
I wish. I would have been like, get in, jump in. I'll take you out of this horrible place. And you should live with me forever and we'll become Grey Gardens. And it was, we've talked about this. We try to give our kids independence and
Kind of.
What? We do.
We do, but we made them codependent, Brooke.
Well,
we made them a little bit like that.
Okay, I was completely codependent with my mother. I was
going to say, no, my mother, her mother, managed her career, and they spent every second together. I couldn't pick my mother out in a lineup right now. So, my mother's name is Muffy. She never peed in the shower. She worked in the White House. I never saw her. So, in a way, you understand what it is to have such a codependent relationship.
I do, but it was a huge source of the way I grew up. I didn't know anything other than that. So then I have my own daughters, and I'm so intent on making sure they're independent, making sure they have their own opinions and that they can individuate appropriately and still feel safe to come back to me. I tried doing all of it until the moment that we dropped her off in college. I regretted every smart decision I'd ever made in my life with regards to her because I wanted her to be hanging on to the bumper saying, I just want to be with mama, I just want to be with mama, because that's...
But you messed her up in other ways, so...
No, but then you watch them becoming these people all on their own, and it took me a long time to become my own person for a myriad of different reasons, but...
We have time.
I'll write a book, I'll come back. But, there's that thing that happens, it's that fine balance, and and you even say in the book, you say, there's something very exciting about jumping into the unknown. And that's what you want for your kids.
Yeah.
You want it. You don't really want it, but you want it for them. But you're not ready, and you say, I just need more time. There's some more stories I want to tell her. There's more things I want to show her. There's more, and you're just it's gut-wrenching to know that you're sending them out. And yes, they say they come back, but It's pretty hard. And
Well,
then
you change the locks. That's the first thing you do.
yeah, definitely.
They're not
Yeah, and I'm left with, the mine, which is she's just about as reticent. Unless it's about like a label of some kind that she could have on her body.
Yeah, no, I couldn't live with your youngest.
Yeah.
She scares me.
I actually, the kids were sitting in the kitchen on Mother's Day. They were in Ali's kitchen, and we knew that nothing was going to be done for us for Mother's Day. We just knew it. That's just the way it is. And so we commiserate, and we think, okay, we have to figure a way to get something done for us. So I was like, well, why don't we make them do something for us, and then we just don't have to pay attention. We don't have to do anything. So then they came up with the idea of cooking for us, which was actually really sweet, to which I responded, nah, why don't we just get a reservation? Because I was like, oh, it's going to be a nightmare, and I'm going to have to clean, and Chris will have to cook, and then we're going to end up doing it. And anyway, the boys ended up cooking for us, which was great. And Greer, my youngest, said to me this morning, she said, we were in the kitchen, and we were trying to help the dads, and all we wanted to do is be out there in the living room listening to you two talk to each other. And it was the sweetest. They probably just wanted to get away from doing any work whatsoever. But by the way, I did most of the dishes after you left to go to the airport.
Did you really?
I had to.
They're in so much trouble. My daughters are in so much trouble.
No, they filled up the dishwasher once. I'm going to say that. They started it. So
okay,
they're not in trouble.
We'll talk about this offline. But the other thing about the empty nest thing is, during COVID, I also have parents that are aging. And it's a very interesting time to be sandwiched between parents who you are now parents to and children who you've been parents to who are leaving. And I found it to be very difficult, and especially my mother, Muffy, that I just described so beautifully. My mother was up in Maine, very isolated in a small fishing village, and my stepfather died during COVID, and I couldn't go there because I didn't want to get her sick. And so you're stranded in a way that is incredibly painful because you can't help the people you love. And finally, I was able to get her into independent living, and she's so much happier now. But I was getting calls that were very concerning. Like, can I get a puppy? I was like,
that was
no.
me.
Yeah. I was like, Mom, no, you can't get a puppy. I'm worried about you feeding yourself. And just things like that. Like she hurt her hand, or she hurt her eye, or, there was just like an endless amount of thing. And that to me was, I think, the hardest part of the quarantine was, yes, the silver lining was I was with my family, which was, we'll never sort of get that time again, thank God. But it was my parents that I couldn't get to that was so difficult.
But I also think that, thank you. He sent me love notes just because.
Please tell the woman in the suit to stop talking.
It's not all about her, is what he did.
Oh, I know. I brought you here for a reason.
No, but also just this idea when you have to parent a parent.
Yeah.
And different, we grew up very differently from one another, but I have always parented my parent. And my mom was a single mom, and so that's all I knew, right? So I've always been a mom to my mom because I had to take care of her, and for different reasons, she was an alcoholic, and I was always worried about her dying, right? Just because if she died, then where would I be? But I still always felt that she had a certain sense of strength and power until she got older and she was in a residence. And when you watch your mom deteriorate or be as needy, the idea of the mother, even though my mom was kind of wildly wonderful and crazy, but she was still always my mom. Mm-hmm. And when you have to deal with that, and here you are dealing with your children during the pandemic, you had COVID, your whole concept of just mortality is different. Mm-hmm. You're trying to be a rock for your kids, and you're trying to really be there for your mother, but also find out what that means to you psychically. is a lot to have to comprehend, and you deal with it so beautifully in the book, with humor and with tenderness and with respect, and the complexity of the mother-daughter relationship. It's all in there, and you really got sort of faced with all of it.
Yeah, nice summary. She went to Princeton.
Okay, so we are going to start with some questions from the audience that have been handed
Here
to
we
me.
go.
Clearly, they don't
Fasten
like my
your
questions.
seatbelts.
Okay, so the first one is, who is your dream podcast guest?
My dream podcast guest would be, I would say Michelle Obama, just for likes. No, she'd be interesting to talk to. I'd like to have two people on, Michelle Obama and Putin together, and we would play the dating game.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So somebody wants to know where the decaying turtle analogy came from.
The decaying turtle analogy. Who asked that
Who
question?
asked that question?
I know.
Yeah, no, she.
Oh, I didn't write
She
it.
actually
Somebody
didn't
else
write
did.
the book, but anyway.
Right, something smelled like
No, I think it was his breath. I think it was Cooper's breath.
Cooper. Yes.
Cooper's breath does smell like a decaying turtle.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing about my writing process. Things come to my head, and I don't know where they came from. This is what scares my husband the most, especially on live TV. I don't know where they come from, but when I'm writing, I have this kind of visceral thing, and it's what I imagine a decaying turtle smells like. I don't go around in the woods. But Cooper, my hound dog, who I love so much, this is really how I knew I had COVID, besides the fever and the fact that I was tested and it said positive. At one point, my dear husband, George, who has a knack for losing my dogs, he came in and I heard from downstairs, Cooper ran away. I'm shackled to my bed. I'm like, what? Cooper ran away.
I lost him.
I lost him. I'm like, how did Cooper run away? Wasn't he on a leash? I let him off the leash. Oh, you let him off the leash. And there's deer everywhere, so that might be a reason he ran away. Cooper runs away. He comes back 8 hours later, and he's covered in what I think is nuclear waste. It's bright green, and there's algae and mud and thistles and a rat's head and, half of a Barbie. They're all stuck to him. And he was shaking for about 3 hours. We don't know what happened to him. We think he got involved with a nasty gang of woodland creatures or squirrels, but something
deer
happened
involved.
to him. No, there was trauma
There's
involved
trauma
in this dog.
and deer involved.
And I couldn't smell him because I had COVID, but everybody else was having a very strong reaction. And all I could think of was, he must smell like a decaying turtle, because that is pretty much the grossest thing I could think of.
Okay, so just a footnote on that.
Yes.
My mom had gotten somehow a head trauma, a hematoma, and I had to be called to St. Vincent's one night in the middle of the night. And this is a true story.
This sounds like it's going to be a funny one.
I go find out what's happening to my mom, and she's in the emergency room, and her head is just this. I mean, it's just she's got two heads, and it's just horrible. And I look up, and and a rerun of Suddenly Susan was on the TV, and I was like, okay, my life is really weird. I don't know what to do. And then there was a homeless man who was in the little area in front of her with the curtain, and he saw me and he gave me a box and said, here, I want to give you this. And it was a dead turtle. I swear to God. And when you wrote that about Cooper's breath, I was like, I know what that smells like, because the turtle wasn't moving. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this turtle. I was like, well, maybe it's not
Gave
alive.
you a
Maybe
dead turtle?
He didn't know it was dead, I don't think. I think he thought he was giving me a gift. And I took it because I felt bad, not saying yes to a gift.
Wait a minute. We got to unpack this. First of all, he didn't know you were going to be there.
No, he carried a dead turtle with him. I don't think he thought it was dead. I think it was his pet.
He gave you his pet.
He gave me his
He
pet.
gave you Stanley.
And I didn't realize that Stanley had, passed on
Died.
until I got outside, and I was like, oh, why does it smell so bad?
And what happened? What'd you do with Stanley?
I just threw him away.
In the trash on the street?
I just threw him away in the trash on the street because
You're going to hell.
I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
This guy's in there for the night. My mom's got a hematoma on her head. I was like, you know what? I got other problems.
You just watched yourself on Suddenly
I
Susan.
just went, shh, this is really funny. I'm really funny in this. Everybody quiet.
Oh, everybody's got a dead turtle story, I'm sure.
So somebody wants to ask you about the kiss that occurred after you found the letters in the basement.
Oh my God.
They've already read the book.
Sharon,
Ali.
is that you? The kiss. This was actually on Instagram, right?
No, it's in your book too.
So it was in my book too?
Yeah.
Again, I had a ghostwriter. So during COVID, I don't think I'm alone. You cleaned stuff out. I cleaned the basement. And I found a box that had seemed to have moved every house we had moved from Washington, D.C. to New York. This box always seemed to come with us, and nobody ever unpacked it. I don't know why. I think because it said George on it. Nobody bothered. And it was always in a basement. And so finally during COVID, I had time to go through stuff, and I opened this box, and it was like a time capsule of George Stephanopoulos. And there was like his badge from the White House and magazine covers. And I really hadn't paid much attention to his past.
You only knew him for
until
2
me.
months.
I did. I thought he was John Stamos from Full House. They look alike. So, but I really hadn't, I don't talk a lot to George about that stuff. It's much more transactional, like, did you pay the bills? So I sort of went through this box of things of George, oh my God, he was on the cover of Newsweek. Oh, look at this clipping. Oh, he went out with Jennifer Grey. So I kind of dug through this whole thing, and I had this sort of newfound, awe of my husband in a way that, after 20 years, it kind of rubs off. And he came down the stairs in sweatpants, and I was so kind of lost in the great man he was that he came down the stairs, and I gave him the kind of kiss you usually give the first year of marriage, not the 20th. And it was a very sweet, passionate kiss. And that was it for 6 months. That was all he got. But it was this sort of great gift, this little treasure trove of George Stephanopoulos.
Oh, I think that's a
Thank you.
It's a very sweet moment.
Yes. Very sweet moment.
So aside from writing this book, did you find moments of creativity during the pandemic? A drive
yes.
to do something new?
Oh, yes. Are you kidding me? If you come to my house, it's all painted rocks and really bad picture frames, tie-dye tablecloths. I mean, I was losing my mind. I painted
But
bathrooms.
what about in your career? Like, did you get...
This is my career now.
Oh, sorry.
I paint
Okay.
rocks.
All right. Painting rocks. Okay. I have some of them.
But I started clamming. I took her clamming.
I bought you your first waders.
You did. Yes.
I've got it. I didn't buy the proper rake, and you're never going to live it down, but I did buy you your first waders.
You did. The rake she bought me was for digging tulip bowls, and you actually need something much bigger.
Diamonds.
But I never would have discovered clamming if I weren't in a situation where I had the time. And let me tell you something about clamming. If you want to take out your notes, do it now. Clamming is incredibly meditative, because particularly if you're at home and, again, washing the clothes on the rocks and milking the goats and taking care of your family, you go outside into the fresh air and you're in a body of water and there's nobody else there, hopefully, and you kind of lose your sense of time.
And it's really physical.
It's very physical. And you are raking and you dig down and you bring up this jewel, this clam, this crustacean, this mollusk, and then you get more, and then you have a bushel, and then you bring it home and you made spaghetti and clams for your family, and you feel like the greatest forager. Your testosterone is like off the charts.
It was one of my best birthday meals ever. Was that and the
linguine and
cake?
clams.
We-
And then during quarantine, I had a little more time, and I was clamming like a crazy person. And I had so many bushels of clams, and my family was like, "Oh, we don't eat clams. Stop it." George was like, "No." That I gave them to food pantries. I gave them to nurses. I was handing out bushels of clams. If you go to the Bay in Long Island, there are no more clams. I have dug every sucker out of the Bay.
Well,
But
then you
it's-
finally did it legally because you did the whole first time you did it, you didn't have the license yet. And you didn't know that you needed a license. So she goes, "This is great. We can just get clams." I'm like, "I'm sure there's something that we have to do first."
I didn't know you needed a shellfish license.
It's like,
or a
we're
hunting
going to get
license.
arrested for
And I shoot
clamming.
anybody that comes on my property. No, I didn't know I needed a shellfish license. So when we first were clamming, we didn't know. And then another time during COVID, I saw a cop car drive on the beach, and I was like, "What? There's nobody out here. There's no bonfire and beer
Excuse me,
drinking."
ma'am.
"Excuse me, ma'am." And I'm all alone out there, and I'm like, "What?" And I'm thinking, I'm obviously going through many things he could be arresting me for. And he said, "Do you have your shellfish license?" And I did one of those like you do with the car. I was like, it's in my car. I'm up here in water. And he was like, "Next time." I said, "Absolutely, Larry, next time." I saw him come a week later. I still hadn't gotten it. I almost went under the reeves and got a straw and went underwater and just breathed through my straw. But I decided to be honest. And then the next day I went and got my shellfish license, which is $20.
And I mean, but you like, how
I'm
did
licensed
we didn't know.
to kill now.
We didn't know. Okay, there's just a couple more. How long have you been friends, and how did you meet? And thank you for the great laughs.
Oh, did you write that before? Because you didn't know. I actually, believe it or not, I met her on, what was it? Grindr?
Yeah.
I thought she was a dude. Look at her hands.
Man hands. I got man hands.
How did I meet you? I don't even remember.
We had met. Well, we were on. Wasn't it Leno or something together? And we ran into each other.
Yeah.
Many.
And then listen, anybody that's got two daughters or any two kids, your kids' ages, you glom onto them because you're like, "Hi, oh my God, my kids are your age. Can they come sleep over at your house?"
Well, we actually met before we had kids, and then the woman who photographed my wedding with my husband,
Photographed.
Laura Porzak photographed your
Yes.
wedding. But the real kind of thing happened. I was such a fan. I'd met her personally, but I was just such a fan of her comedy and just wanted to work with her. And I got a contact number for her, and I kind of cold emailed you and said, "Hi, just whatever you write for me, I want to work with you. I will do whatever you want. Just ask a lot of me, and please write me a part on your show." And
It wasn't so cold. I mean,
no, but I mean,
it wasn't like
I
I'm
was
your
asking-
upstairs neighbor, Louise. It was like,
No, but I
love
was like,
Brooke Shields.
no, I know, but like
Okay.
asking you to write something for me.
And I did.
I'd never done that before. I'd never called.
And it paid off, right? Because
And
you
it was
put
one of the
yourself
best
out there.
things that was ever written. I said yes. I didn't even read it, and I was like, "I'll do it. I'm in," just because I knew she would challenge me. And it was one of the most fun, one of the best experiences I ever had.
And that is a lesson. You put yourself out there. It's a little bit scary. You went, you asked.
And our
I
girls
said, "Who's Brooke
appreciated
Shields?"
that.
I Googled you.
Yeah, you've.
You had your SAG card, and I
Yep,
thought,
I do.
all right, let's give this young girl a try.
No, but there is something to be said for that, and my daughters even commented on. They're like, "You just asked her for that?" And I said, "Well, if you don't ask, you don't know. At the worst case, you could say, 'Oh yeah, thank you very much,' and never get back to me, and that would be that."
That was my
fine.
first email, but it bounced back.
I changed my email just so that they would keep bouncing back, so that I would. Anyway, no, it was really, and it was funny,
really fun.
and it was hysterical, and we've been trying to continue to work together ever since. And so, one last question, which is a little bit more on a serious note. After everything that's happened the last 2 years, are we ready to heal?
Oh boy, I really hope so. I think here's what I have to say. and Fauci will probably steal this from me tomorrow on the news. I think that it will never be as bad as it was. I think that healing involves, like we started with, this is called a recall, we're going full circle, humor, a sense of community, love, reaching out, helping each other. We were, during quarantine, so disjointed, so torn apart in every way, politically, in a humanitarian way, in a philanthropic way. And I think if we take any lessons out of this, which we should, we are now at a pivotal moment in our country where we can actually come back together as best we can. And I think we will. I know that the COVID numbers are going up in New York, but nobody's dying. People are getting sick, and I think that is going to start to go down more and more. I keep reading about a wave in the fall. Oh, now I'm just pulling it out of my ass. And there's a 32% chance of a cellular regeneration of the original strain. I think things are looking up. I think the sun is coming out. And if I could say anything to all of us here today, and something I've learned and I write about in my book a little bit, is there is, and I'm glad that we're in Temple, there is a sense of helping one another. And I think that during good times and bad times, it means so much to say to somebody who you don't know, can I help you? Is there something I can do? Can I help somebody that lost their job? Can I help, a food pantry? All those things are important, and they should continue to go on even after this pandemic is part of our past history, because, humanity and empathy are things that we can never lose as a community.
And you talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what you talk about: decency, you talk about kindness, you talk about empathy, and you talk about that and humor, but that being really that's the community that we really are a part of. And that comes, I know we laugh a lot in your book, but what really it does come down to is that humanity, and is giving back to people, and really being on this journey together and supporting one another.
If you know somebody that's going through a hard time, just throw a small bottle of fabric softener over their fence. They will appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming out and watching us talk.
Ali Wentworth.
Really good job.
It's my turn? No.
What? Yeah. So you were an Ivory Soap baby at what, 6 months?